I will quickly introduce myself. So my name is Amira Musa. I'm a development practitioner and engineer by training. I've just concluded my master's in sustainable development practice at the University of Florida this last spring with focus on social entrepreneurship. I would love for Renata to introduce herself as well as Irving just before we start.
Hello, everybody. I am very pleased to be here. My name is Renata Serra. I'm faculty in the Center for African Studies at the University of Florida. I'm a development economist by training, and I am a core faculty in the Master in Development Practice, which is a 2-year program at the University of Florida that train practitioners. And Amira, and actually Irving before her, were student and now alumni of that program. So I worked closely with Amira as her faculty supervisor on this research, and I'm really pleased about the progress that she has made, and grateful also. And Irving is going to introduce himself and say about his role. So in this presentation, I'm here just to support Amira. She will make most of the presentation. I also want to apologize in advance, but I have another commitment afterwards that I cannot postpone. So I will have probably to leave earlier. And so I apologize in advance.
Hi, Renata. Thanks, Amira. My name is Irving Chan Gomez. As Renata mentioned, I'm an alumni of the UF program in Sustainable Development Practice. Currently, I work at B-Lab Global, so I'm in charge of global partnerships and global growth for our operations across the globe. I had the opportunity and pleasure to work with Amira on this project, so really excited to be here and sharing this with more people and some of the discoveries that she found. Over to you, Amira.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited about this. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay. Can you all see my screen now? Perfect. So today's webinar is focusing on the topic of strengthening social enterprises' contribution to sustainable development through impact measurement in East and Southern Africa. This research is based on my work with B-Lab Global, as Irving has mentioned, during the summer of 2020. We have the introduction, so I'm just gonna skip this slide. So since we're talking about the East and Southern Africa region, I would like to focus on the percentage of population living below income poverty line in the region, because that's the region where we're focusing on during this research. So we're having 700 million people living in East and Southern Africa, with 45% population living below income poverty line. And also, as we can see, there's a huge population that might be affected, or actually they are affected by the global warming. And also, I think we have all of us, we have heard about the fires in the forests and the droughts in South Africa due to the global warming. So this region is particularly vulnerable to global warming and poverty, especially after the pandemic of COVID-19. So poverty, pandemics, and climate change are all examples of the challenges that sustainable development in East and Southern Africa, as well as elsewhere, are there. So these wicked problems require collaborative action, not only from the government, the international development organizations, and civil society, but also from the private sector. That's why there is a growing movement for businesses as a driver to sustainable development in both the developing and the developed countries. This movement towards a system change in how we do business. So instead of doing business as usual, where we just focus on the profit, there's the emergence of the social enterprises, where they focus on the triple bottom line of the people, the planet, as well as the profit. So these businesses, the social enterprises, strive to create positive social and environmental impact. But here comes the question, how can we measure business impact? How can we as customers also differentiate between good marketing and real impact? So do we have an impact measurement tool? So when we say a company is creating social and environmental impact, how can we verify this? So for the green buildings, if you know, there is the LEED certification, which states how the building is environmental friendly. There's the fair trade to coffee producers. And so for the impact businesses, there is the B Corp certification developed by B Lab, which I will introduce in a few seconds. The B Corp certification is the first of its kind to evaluate holistically the company's impact on the society and the planet. So a holistic performance-based standard that also requires legal commitment to stakeholders. So B Lab has developed, in order to this end, B Lab has developed the B impact assessment, where there's areas of impacts that we try to measure or we actually evaluate in order to say if this company is meeting the higher performance of creating positive impact to the people and the society. So first, the customers, second, the environment, third, the community, fourth, the workers, and the governance. What we mean by governance here, it's more of related to the business model of the business. So the B impact assessment measure the day-to-day operations of a business and its impact on these five stakeholders, as we said. The BIA includes 200 questions that are determined according to the company's size, sector, and market. Also, the B impact assessment pushes companies to measure and assess their practices that directly affect the community, as we said, and particularly the poor, which is very important to the East Africa region. I'm not going to go through this, this is just a background of what are the impact areas that's within the B impact assessment. So within the workers, there's the health, wellness, and safety aspect, there's the career development aspect. Within the community, there is the diversity, how diverse is the company, how are the jobs inclusive, with respect to the environment, so the water, how they're using their water, are they using renewable energy, and so forth. And for the customers, what kind of impact improvement you're doing, what kind of economic empowerment, and so forth. So B Lab is a nonprofit organization that's headquartered in Philadelphia, in the US. They're recognized as the leader in the field of responsible business, driving a global culture shift to redefine success in business. So from shareholders' interest to stakeholders' interest. So instead of having profits shared among the shareholders, and that's the main bottom line, there's, as we mentioned earlier, the triple bottom line of other stakeholders such as the community and the workers. So till these numbers are as of September 2020, so 3,821 we have certified B Corps globally across 150 industries in 74 countries. The global distribution is as shown. You can see that, like in the United States, the major percentage of the certified B Corps, and my focus today is on, as I said, the East and Southern Africa. So only this portion of the global certified B Corps are in Asia, Africa, and Central America. So my research questions, so why do we see more certified B Corps in the region? What challenges, if any, constrain small businesses from measuring their social and environmental impact and to further certify as a B Corp? My second research question was, since B Lab has global network. So what can we learn from the successful solutions of other partners in the B-Lab Global Network, primarily Systema B, to better support social enterprises served by B-Lab East Africa? And hence, what are the measures to enhance the rate of certification of social enterprises in East and Southern Africa? So here, as I told you, in summer of 2020, I was ready to travel virtually to Latin America and East Africa through my semi-structured interviews with 7 representatives from different countries in East Africa, such as Colombia, Brazil, Chile, and Mexico. I also did semi-structured interviews in East and Southern Africa with the B-Lab East Africa team, with 3 certified B Corps, and with 1 B Impact Assessment user. And also, of course, I did disc and literature review. Back then in this summer, here I am highlighting Florida, where I was living. So I did the disc and literature review in coordination and close cooperation with Irving. And also I analyzed existing data from the Global dashboard for 121 businesses in East and Southern Africa. So the key results. So the first thing which was interesting for us to dig deep in was understanding the main or the common characteristics of a business that's certifying as a B Corp in East Africa. So I did analyze the characteristic of 37 certified B Corp in East Africa. And as I said, this data is exported in August 6, 2020 during my research. And so back 3% of the 37 certified B Corps has less than 50 full-time employees, and 73% of them has less than $1 million US as annual revenue. And as you can see from the map here, most of the certified B Corps are located in either Kenya or South Africa, and the rest, which is 27%, operate in 8 different countries in the region. The highest sector or industry is the professional and technical services industry, and the retail industry comes next. Also, the B Impact Assessment users are the companies that went through and completed the B Impact Assessment, but didn't go through the certification process, which I will also explain the certification process in much more detail in the next slide. So the B Impact users here that I focused on analyzing were the B Impact users that succeeded to achieve the high threshold for certification, which is 80. So we back then there was 1,249 BIA users, and also 80% of them has less than 50 full-time employees. 26% of them were in the agriculture, forestry, and fishing. So the approximate rate of certification in the region is almost 3%. So 3% out of all the B Impact Assessment users go to the certification or succeed to complete the certification process, and 6% of them only achieve the 80 threshold of the BIA. So the certification process, as I said, first of all, the companies has to go through the B Impact Assessment, answering the 200 questions I mentioned earlier. And then when they get the 80 score, they go to the next step, which is the legal accountability, where they have to state legal accountability for their stakeholders. And then there's a verification process done by B-Lab representatives. At this stage, there might be site visits to the businesses in order to verify their practices on the ground. And lastly, the public transparency, where each certified B Corp published their impact reports annually for everyone to read it. So that's highlights how important is the B impact assessment, right? Because it's the very first step. And if a company didn't score 80, then they will not go through the other steps of the certification. So the challenges, though, as I said, my research question was about why we're not seeing more certified B Corps in the regions. So out of my semi-structured interviews, after I did the thematic analysis, these were the challenges that they are facing. So first of all, the perceived time and manpower required to complete the BIA. So the B impact assessment is not an ordinary like a Q&A question where a company would go and say, yes, we do this, no, we don't do this, but it's more of an educational tool for companies on how to measure their social and environmental impact. So actually it requires them to go deeper into their day-to-day operations, into their processes. So it needs time, and also it needs someone inside the company who knows and understand very well the processes inside the company in order to answer the questions. So one of the interviewees said, one of the businesses, that completing the BIA took longer than they expected. The second challenge is the perceived level of complexity of the B impact assessment. As I said, it's not a Q&A assessment, so they need to go further to revisit their operations in order to adjust it. For example, if they needed to make to increase their positive impact on the environment, so they needed to do something related to waste management within their workplace. So they want to go to do this first and verify it, and then make sure it's done. So the level of complexity to complete the B impact assessment is not easy by default. So one of the businesses said behaving as a B Corp requires a complete mind shift within the company. The third challenge is the extensive documentation and formalization to prove businesses' social and environmental practices. So as I said, during the certification process, there's the verification step, which there should be documentation and kind of formalization from companies to prove that they are doing social and environmental impact. So they have said that the biggest challenge is tracking issues that they weren't previously tracking. So it's not only about creating impact, it's also how do we monitor this impact and report on it. The third key results was also, it was also interesting for me to understand the benefits to certify as a B Corp. So since these were the challenges that they already went through in order to certify. So my question during the semi-structured interviews included, so what was the benefits for you to certify as a B Corp? What was the motive in order to like go through this rigorous procedures? So all of them said the impact measurement. So as I said, the B impact assessment is an educating tool. So through answering the questions, they know how to measure the impact, which is their main objective while they're creating impact, like how can we measure it? So the B impact assessment helps them do this in a more precise way, and it also provides something that no other certification provides. The second thing is gaining a reputation. So when you're as a business, when you certify as a B Corp, so you're certified by a third party that you do have positive social and environmental impact. So that's a very good reputation in your industry. That's not them that are claiming like that we're doing the best for the environment or we're doing the best for our people, but there's a third party who came and measured and assessed our practices and gave us a certification. The third benefit is being a certified B Corp facilitates business opportunities for them. So being among a community of certified B Corps was really useful for them to having like a network to support each other within their journey to create positive impact for people and the planet. My second research question was related to how can we leverage the organizational learning within the B-Lab Global Network, as I mentioned. And so it was really important for me to understand how basically the Latin American partner, System Bay, has overcome the challenges at their early growth, because System Bay was founded in 2012, while B-Lab East Africa was founded in 2017. So my semi-structured interviews with the representatives from the Latin American region was focused on the early growth of the movement in the region, with the aim of drawing similarities and drawing similarities, if any, between the two regions. So here I was also looking into the socio-economic factors in the two regions. And basically, the most important one was the ease of doing business. So this is from the World Bank. With the dark blue areas shows the lower indicators of the ease of doing businesses. So the dark blues are the countries that are struggling in terms of the ease of doing businesses, while the light blue areas are the countries where there's an ease of doing business, which is also measured according to specific aspects by the World Bank. The second thing for me was focusing on the East African region and trying to dig deeper to understand the maturity levels of the social enterprises ecosystem in the region. I don't want to go through this because it's another webinar by itself, but I just wanted to highlight that Kenya and South Africa are the most developed ecosystems in the region in terms of the social enterprises. So the comparison between the East and Southern Africa region, VS Latin America, yield three main differences. The first one is the factors affecting the rise of the B Corp movement. So in East and Southern Africa, as you can see, it's recently introduced by B-Lab Global in 2017. On the other side, in Latin America, actually the ideology of using business as a force for good has long been the narrative in the region, which means that even before introducing B-Lab certification to the Latin American region, there was a narrative around how can business do positive and social, positive social and environmental impact for the people. The second difference is regards to the regional characteristics of the social enterprise, where in East and South Africa, people, they do business in order to self-sustain themselves. I mean, mainly for kind of a job creation model. While in Latin America, there is a goal beyond self-sustainability, which is creating a social and economic benefit. The third difference is in the key players in the ecosystems. So in East and South Africa, the key players are the international aid organizations, while in Latin America, it's the civil society. So what does this mean is that in the East and South Africa region, either for the social enterprises or for the impact measurement, it has been pushed by the international aid organizations, while in Latin America, it has been pushed by the civil society. The similarity that also was revealed out of my analysis for the semi-structured interviews was the collectivist culture. So respondents from both regions, from Latin America and from East Africa, said that they have within their countries the culture of the collectivist, where the benefits and the benefits of, let's say, the benefits of the individual of the group is more appreciated than the individual. It's like we best operate as a group, as a team, when we feel that we belong to a community. That was the common factor in the two regions as well. And also the identified similarity was that both partners faced challenges with business in order to measure impact and to certify as a B Corp. So in the Latin American region, they did face discontinuity to complete the BIA, which we have seen that it's essential part to complete the certification process. So the approach that proved to be successful in the Latin American region, that they have designed context-specific products to help companies complete the BIA. So they offered consultancy workshops, they coached companies step by step in order to complete the BIA. And what's most important here is that it was context specific, which I mean, it was like country level specific, because as you have seen, I've interviewed people from Chile, Mexico, Argentina. And so each one of them responded that they have understood what are the challenges that different companies, like within different sizes of companies, face in order to complete the BIA, and then they designed products in order to help them complete it. The second common challenge between the two regions is the lack of documentation required to prove the impact-related practices. And so what the Latin American partner did and proved to be successful in their case was that showing cases of best practices to measure impact for companies from the same country and from the same industry was successful. So, sorry, I cannot take questions because I cannot see the chat. So if anyone is sending anything, I apologize. I'm about to finish. So as I said, the successful approach by Latin America for approaching the lack of documentation challenge was showing cases of best practices to measure impact for companies from the same country and from the same industry. So they have formed like small booklet or guideline where they show cases for companies that succeeded, for example, in Chile, to go through the certification process and prove their impact in specific aspects, how they did so. And they provided this to companies who are still in the process of certification so that they can see how other companies have overcome this challenge. And so what are the implications for this? So two main implications that I'm gonna share with you here during this webinar is first the importance of the role of an enabling environment for the bee movement to flourish. That was also very obvious from the Latin American partner, where they have created an enabling environment for the bee movement to flourish through having partnerships with different stakeholders in the region. So in the East African region, since we have said that donors and international organizations are the key stakeholders. So what this implies here for the BLAB East Africa partner is creating partnerships with donors and funding entities that are investing in purpose-driven companies are very important and essential in order to create an enabling environment for the bee movement, as well as collaborating with educational institutions to provide educational programs on responsible business practices, as well as working on the brand recognition. As we said, it's new to the region, so that's a very important aspect to work on, and also the perceived, highlight the perceived benefits. So that was on the economic system level, and on the businesses level, it's very important to ease in the certification process. So this could be done by having design context-specific solutions, having in-country representatives. So in each country in the region, it's preferable to have in-country representative. Also creating a step-by-step coaching program to complete the BIA, and also provide consultancy related to BIA completion. And there was, as usual, there's a study limitations. For my study limitation, was like a global limitation for everyone who was doing research during 2020. So the global pandemic of COVID-19 hit, as you all know, and this pushed me to do my field work remotely. That wasn't planned at the first beginning. I did all my research methods and planned the research to be done in person and face-to-face. But then the pandemic hit, and as you know, travel was banned. We were all at home, so I did it all remotely. I redesigned some of my research methods in order to fit this remote mode. Also, we have, despite the cooperation and the strong support I've got from Irving, from B-Lab Global, from B-Lab East Africa, we have got low participation from the businesses in the region. Obviously, they were trying to maintain staying in the business in these unprecedented times. So there was low participation from their side. Also, the limited time frame of this research, which extended over a little more than 3 months. And honestly, I knew it needed more than this in order to maybe have higher participation, as well as having this kind of digging deep into the two regions, into the Latin American region and the East African region. But I'm very satisfied with the semi-structured interviews, which is the best or my favorite part of the research, where I got to know wonderful people from B-Lab in Latin America and in Kenya specifically. So, as you know, we're together through this, but finally it was done. So this research contributes to the rising movement that is redefining success in the business world towards hopefully an equitable and inclusive economy. And also it's a contribution to the limited literature on the topic of measuring the social and environmental impact of businesses in East and Southern Africa. Now I'm done, and it's time for the Q&A. If anyone has any question, please, you can either show me your hands or unmute yourself. I can see, I think, Professor Glenn, you have your hand raised, I think. Professor
Now can you
Glenn?
hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, first of all, I really enjoyed your presentation. Nice job on that, Amira. And it's also very good to see Irving there. And so I know you can't see me, but I'm going to throw a question a little bit, probably from left field. You know, it seems to me that you were talking kind of like the balance between, you know, benefits and the effort that's required to do this certification process. And, you would think that if the benefits outweigh the effort required, that would increase interest in going through the entire process of certification. My question is, with the current, COVID-19 pandemic, I think there's a lot of interest in businesses, and you even alluded to it, this of having more resilience to survive these, kind of shocks that can occur to the economy. And, of course, this is unprecedented, but nonetheless, I think resilience is something that, would be is very important to businesses. So what I was wondering is, going through this process and strengthening governance and, all of these things that you talked about that are looked at through the certification process, whether this actually might increase or strengthen the resilience of these businesses to survive these types of shocks that are occurring. Because I think that would be a really strong case to, promote the idea of certification as a B, business. So anyway, if you have any ideas about that, I would be very interested.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much for your question. So I would say two things. First, as I mentioned in my presentation, businesses, or let me say entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs specifically, in the region would love to belong to a community. So belonging to a community gives a sense of resilience in terms of when we know that it's not only us as a business who's going through this. There are other people that are going through this. Okay, so let's come to a table and brainstorm how can we go through this as businesses. Also, being part of the B Corp community, I remember very well that during, that was the early stage of the pandemic. As I said, I started in June. I remember very well, since I was part of B-Lab Global back then, which was my pleasure, that they had so many supportive initiatives for the certified B Corps. It came in the shape of financial support. It came in the form of technical support or consultancy support. So, I mean, being in this community, I would say, would help businesses to be more resilient. That's number one. Number two is that also, as social entrepreneurship aims to create impact, so it's very important and crucial for them to measure their impact. And from my interviews with the businesses in Eastern and Southern Africa, they have all emphasized and highlighted that measuring impact using the BIA or going through the BIA was educational for them and helped them to, let's say here, like avoiding reinventing the wheel in terms of how can we define impact? How can we measure impact? Because it's not easy. Like by default, if someone came and said, "Okay, I want to do business to create impact," so that's a very, very huge and wide perspective or approach that's not measurable. The best thing about the B impact assessment is that it makes it measurable. Like, how can we measure our impact and thus manage it? And this for me also means that we're not wasting our resources, we're not wasting our time, we're not wasting our effort, we're not reinventing the wheel trying to define what is impact, how can we measure it, how can we monitor it, how can we evaluate it, because these are all important for a business to stay in a continuous learning loop and quality loop in order to enhance their performance. So if we cannot measure it, we cannot enhance it or make it better, right? So that's how I see it. I hope I have answered your question, Glenn.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I can't see any raised hands, so maybe questions are still coming.
Well, I'll go another one then, if no one else will.
Okay.
So, Amira, are you continuing to work in this space now that you are a graduate? And so, yeah.
I'm hoping, honestly, I'm hoping, and it was very, very interesting and nice when I came back to Egypt, that I've encountered many projects that is speaking and targeting the green economy, and like this kind of narrative wasn't there honestly before I started my master's program, like 2 years or 3 years ago. There wasn't a narrative around building green economy or measuring business impact. So when I came back, I've started to like notice there's a couple of programs and projects in this field. So I'm like, well, I'm ready. So I hope so, yeah.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you. Thanks, Dylan, for joining and for your questions. Well, I think we're done. So I'm really grateful for everyone who joined us today, and I apologize for the delay, the technical problem that happened early before we started. So thanks for everyone who held it tight and joined us, and I hope you've enjoyed the webinar as much as I did.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To both of you, and we'll be in touch.
Sure. Thanks, Glenn, Andy, Irving, everyone here. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.